I honestly can't remember if I've done an intro to this video or not, so if not, hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about these amazing plants in here, plants that I have been acclimating from GreenSpaces.ID, a plant seller from Indonesia. They are imports and they require some acclimation. Sorry about that, my dyslexia is getting to my brain. But they require acclimation in order to get used to living in a colder, drier climate of the UK than the nice, hot, humid, moist climate of Indonesia. So I've been acclimating them for the past month and filming little bits and bobs whenever I did anything throughout the past few weeks, and I wanted to give you an update on all of them. So let us go back in time to right when I got them and let's see how I began. Okay, so I have literally just opened the package and I've got all the plants out and I have had a look through them and had a look at the roots and stuff, and they were in the post for 3 weeks. So they're actually looking way better than I thought they would be. I was very nervous about them. Anything in the mail for 3 weeks, it's gonna be rough. So luckily the weather's been fairly nice. It's been spring, so it's not been too cold, so I think that helped. But I mean, obviously there was some loss. I did lose a couple of leaves and I have taken some like dead roots off of them, like roots that feel too dry to do what I'm about to do. I've taken those out because I don't think it will be beneficial and I don't want them to rot and then cause other things to rot. So here's the plan. So I've got my box, and most of these will fit like standing up within the box. So I have little cups, just a few. I probably need more to be honest, but I have a couple little cups that I'm going to put some distilled water in and then put the roots in there and let them... Sorry, there's like a garbage truck outside making loads of noise. Thanks for taking our garbage. I don't know where I was, but basically I'm going to put the distilled water in these cups, put the roots in the cups. Hopefully they rehydrate okay. I'm using distilled water because it's like the purest water you can use. And then I'll put these in here with the lid on to make sure it's a nice humid environment for them. How does that sound? It sounds good to me. I'm a bit nervous, but I will take you along with me on these plants and show you the roots to begin with. And yeah, so let's do this. This is the distilled water I'm using. I just got it on Amazon. I've always been really against buying distilled water, but I kind of bought them for these because I knew that they had been in the post for so long and I didn't want them to die, so I wanted to give them like the best possible chance of living, and so distilled water it is. Let's give this a go. First off, we have the Anthurium Silver Blush. The roots are looking pretty good. This guy's definitely thirsty, like it is floppy. There we go. We have my Philodendron Florida Ghost, which I am actually the most worried about. These roots seem so dry. I'm really scared that they're gonna just die. I have removed as many of the like sort of really dry ones as possible. Syngonium Grey Ghost. Its roots are actually looking really good. They're pretty sturdy and like they don't feel squishy or too dry, which is awesome. I think it might be a little bit tall for this thing, but we will see, we will see. Got the Skindapsis Lutions, which unfortunately I lost one of the things of. It was just too far gone, and this one doesn't seem to have much root on it, so I might try just putting this in some water. Do you think it'd be bad if I stuck it in with another one? Oh, I don't know. I'll just get another cup. I can get another cup. I'm sure I have another cup somewhere. Okay, I think that's all that is gonna fit in the box. These next two plants are quite large. So the first one is this Alocasia Dragon Skull. And its roots look surprisingly okay. I am a bit nervous because like I feel like Alocasia roots get really fine at the bottom. But I think it might be fine. So I'm actually gonna put it in this because it's quite large and it'll support it nicely. Maybe this will actually fit in the box. Let's see. Okay, it freaking does. That's brilliant. Okay, this last one, no, absolutely will not, because like look at the freaking size of it. So this was the Epipramnum. It's got like such an odd shaped root. It's just like one long one that goes into a bunch of small ones. So I don't know if that's going to live or not, I guess. Like it almost needs its own box. I'm gonna remove this bottom leaf because it's yellow. Like, what do I do with this? Oh, this is the hardest one. I don't know what to do. Maybe Claire will know.
I guess if you're worried about putting them straight in water directly, you can put them in some damp sphagnum moss, or actually, scrap that, I would say damp perlite maybe for the first few days and just see how they're doing, check back and see if they're kind of hydrating a bit.
So Claire's just had a really good point. If there's ones that I'm nervous about, I should probably put them in like damp perlite instead of just straight in water. So I might do that with my Fleur de Ghost, because that was the one that I was the most nervous about. So instead of having it just in water, I would put it in the perlite, and I think that would be good for it. I still don't know about this one. I think it'll be fine. I just need to like, maybe I'll be able to like fit it in the box in like a complicated way. So let's get some perlite and sort the rest of this stuff out. I think this will be okay for now. I've kind of like spiraled the Epipramnum around so it kind of like fits. It's kind of like on top of everything, which I don't particularly like, but it'll do. They only need to stay in the box like this for like a week or so while they get acclimated. So I will put the lid on and I will update you in a couple of days, let you know how they're doing. So it's been just over 2 weeks at this point, and I've done a couple of things here and there just to check on them and make sure they're doing okay. I've removed some leaves, some dead roots, and with my Epipramnum, it's had a bit of a chop. At some point it decided it wanted to lose a good chunk of its leaves, so it did throw a fit, and almost all of the leaves it had decided to go yellow and fall off. So it kind of just left a really long leafless vine with a couple leaves at the very end. I did decide to chop those leaves off and make like sort of wet stick or single leaf cuttings, and I have a couple in here. And then with the rest of the vine, I chopped it up into small little pieces, and I'm doing single leaf wet sticks here, which, to be honest, I'm a bit nervous that they're going moldy. So you see that one? It's a bit gnarly, kind of gross, but it's a shame because a lot of these do have growth points on them. So it's like, I feel like they could. I just need to be quite careful. I might give them a rinse and put it back, but I just don't want the mold to continue spreading and just make the others rot, because that would not be ideal. But I've got that. And then the very base of the plant I still have in this container, and this is where the roots are, but it's just got a couple of nodes on there at the top. I don't know if anything is going to come from that, but I'm hoping it will, because the roots did seem like they were healthy still. So I'm not too sure what will happen. I'm just going to keep an eye on it and keep the moss nice and moist in here, just to hope that it comes back to life. Let me show you the cuttings I have. So something smells funky in this box. So I have the top of the Epipremnum Kujang vine just here in some moss, and as you can see, the humidity is so high in this box that it is like growing some crazy aerial roots here and some new growth. So I hope that that means it's doing well. I've also got one cutting in water, which hasn't really done anything yet, and then one in perlite as well, which also hasn't really done anything, but I don't quite expect it to quite yet, so that's fine. So the Scindapsus, I did have to cut off a bunch of its stem as it was rotting in the water, and so I cut off the stem and I've put it now in some moss, and it seems to be liking that a little bit better. It's not going any yellower than it was before, which is good, but I don't think it's quite starting to root yet. I mean, it has only been 2 weeks, so like I can't expect miracles, even if it is in a really humid environment. So I'm just gonna continue keeping an eye on it and hoping that it will somehow produce some new growth at some point again. So the Florida Ghost is also doing pretty well. It has spread itself out a bit more now, which is awesome. And I've just got this one in perlite, and it seems to be doing okay. The roots don't look like they're rotting in there, which is good. And a lot of the growth points look like they're properly going for it. It did lose one of its really nice white, like marbly leaves, which is unfortunate, but I mean, that's tolerable. As long as it continues to put out new growth, I can't really be that mad about it. So yeah, that's very good. I think this one is actually doing the best of the entire bunch. This is the Syngonium Grey Ghost / Green Splash, and it is also in perlite. But you can see there's some tiny new roots on there, which is so freaking exciting. And like, it just seems like it's doing really well. It's happy. It hasn't really lost any leaves since the initial like big shock of being in the post. So I'm just really glad it's doing well. And the roots that are there already, they don't look like they're rotting. They don't look ideal. So I might have to take some of those off eventually, but I'll wait until it's got a new established root system before I do that. The silver blush anthurium I've had just in some water this whole time, and it did, like, a lot of its bottom roots ended up rotting, which is quite unfortunate, so I have given it a huge trim back, but it is growing so many freaking more on there since that, like, I can't really complain. So it's just living in water for now, and it does look like it's really happy in there. So I'm just gonna continue leaving it in the water. And I've just been replacing the distilled water every couple of days to make sure it is okay. The last one, this is where I think we are getting into trouble, because it looks nasty in there. I don't know if I can properly show you, but one, it smells horrid, and two, the water is gross. Oh, okay, so this is really difficult. I'm not sure what to do, because it is growing new roots. Like, okay, so one, taking that off because that's just dead, but it's growing new roots from here, but this whole bit down here, it's so disgusting. It's like rotted down there. So I'm not really sure. I suppose I should cut it, but I'm nervous to cut it and then put it back in the water. I do need to cut it though, because this whole bottom bit is like, so gross. And I need to change this water because that is also disgusting. So I'm just going to chop this now. I'll probably rinse it as well because it is getting a bit sludgy, the water. So give me 1 second and I'll set up a new angle so we can see what I'm doing with this. Okay, so I've got a couple of things just to make sure that this goes okay. Oh, I need to chop so much off of that, that's sad. Okay, so first I've got a knife. Be careful with knives, kids. I've just taken some isopropyl alcohol, spraying the knife and wiping it just to make sure that it is as sanitary as possible. And then I suppose I just have to cut. I need to be very careful to not chop the roots because I don't want to chop anything off. Okay, actually that feels pretty solid there. So I feel like I've taken just the right amount off. So like that's solid there, but squishy there. Oh my god, it smells so bad as well. It's like absolutely disgusting. Oh my god. And then I've just got some hydrogen peroxide in here. And I'm gonna do 4 parts hydrogen peroxide or 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 4 parts water. It's a little bit too full. I probably didn't need that much, but that's okay. And I'm just gonna dip this in here. And that will just get rid of any of the like rotting bacteria and stuff. Just really clean it up, which is important. I also want to like use this time to like rinse off any of that like nasty film that was on the top of this because it was disgusting and it smells. So I want to get that off if I can. There are bubbles starting to form on it, which I feel like is the hydrogen peroxide doing its thing, which is really good. So I'm just gonna let this sit for a couple minutes. So I have like cleaned it off, wiped it down. I tried to get as much, I think there's like some old cataphyll in there which was rotting. I tried to get as much out of there as possible without harming the new growth. And I'm gonna do something a little bit strange. I don't know if this is gonna work, but this is kind of what I think makes the most sense for this. And it's a bit rogue, and I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but it makes the most sense to me. So, hear me out. got some cling film and I've got some sphagnum moss, and I want this bit to callus over because I don't want it to like be able to keep sucking in more water, because that's how it's gonna continue to rot. So I'm gonna like kind of air layer style it because I want the roots to stay moist, because those need to stay moist. Otherwise it's just not gonna, it just won't work. So I was thinking that if I could get some damp sphagnum and like wrap this bit in the damp sphagnum but leave this bit exposed to callus over, the roots would still get the moisture they need, but it could callus at the same time. Does that make any sense? Am I just talking nonsense? Will it work? I have no idea. But these are my thoughts, and I think it will. I'm confident. I don't know if that's unjustified, but I am confident. I was thinking like that kind of thing, because then this is still out and can callus, but it can still keep moist. Like the roots can stay moist because it's got damp sphagnum. It's just a bit close to the other roots, so it doesn't, I don't know. I think that'll be fine for now. I'm gonna let it sit like this for a day, I think, or until I think it's calloused over nicely. But I think I'm just gonna leave it like this, and I'm not gonna put it back into the big box. I'm just going to leave it as is. Also, look at these leaves. Are these not absolutely freaking gorgeous? You see why I want to save this one so badly, because it's, oh, they're so beautiful. Yeah, I'm gonna leave this out of the like prop box, humidity box thing, because I want this to like properly dry out. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but yeah, this is, we'll see if this works. This might not work, but it's the only thing I can think of that will keep the roots moist while letting this dry. So we will see. I'll update you in a day or two with anything that happens. Hopefully all positive, but yeah. The rest of them I'll probably won't update you soon because nothing will really change in the next couple of days. Hopefully they just keep developing, you know? So yeah. So it has been a month now, and there's definitely some good and some bad in here. There are some things that aren't necessarily ideal. Some plants didn't survive in the way I would have wanted them to, but others are recuperating great. So let's pull out these plants and I can show you where we're at with all of them a month later in the acclimation process. So the first one that I want to show you is probably the one that did the worst in this acclimation. It was the Epipremnum Kujang. The wet sticks are doing actually really freaking well. So none of them have really rooted yet, but a lot of them have grown from the growth points. A lot of them had active growth points already, so I'm not surprised by that. I am more surprised by the lack of roots in there. Like, there's only one or two with tiny, tiny little roots, but for the most part, they don't have any. So I'm a little bit nervous about them long term, as I kind of need them to grow roots in order to survive, but I think they'll be okay. They seem happy enough in here, happy enough to produce little bits of new growth, so I can't really complain, and I'm going to continue leaving them in here for quite a while. I haven't had any issues with mold or rotting since, so I think that these have potential and they might end up surviving. Yes! So these are the few that still had leaves after the trauma of acclimation. Of the three of them, the only one that I have noticed actually doing anything, you can see that it has really grown a root there, and also this joint up here has grown roots, and it's got a bit of a new leaf coming out of the top. So this is probably the one that I'm least worried about. Probably because it is a top cutting, it has more chance of success. The one that's just been in water. Hasn't really done anything. It does look like it has a tiny bit of new growth point there, but other than that, I'm not very optimistic about it. It does have what looks like where roots might come out, but I'm not sure about it. The one in Perlite has started to grow a couple tiny little roots. Oh, is it upside down? But I think I've had it upside down. Smart, Emma. Really smart. Well, it's not my fault. Look, this is the right way up and the leaf is down there. So of course I potted it up like this. Which is my bad, but I should probably put it somewhere where I can lay it down in some perlite instead of having it like up one way or the other, because it does have a couple tiny little roots in there. Hopefully those little ones continue on growing and I'm able to get them to a point where it's growing some new growth as well. One of the ones that I am having like no issues with really at all is this Anthurium. The silver blush is doing freaking amazingly. I'm not worried at all because look at those. Just look at them. Like, it is gonna be absolutely freaking fine. And since I did cut those off, it's not had any issues whatsoever. So it'll be great, I'm sure. I could probably actually pot this up now. I might pot it in Pon in a little bit because I find Pon works really great for Anthuriums. And I'll probably end up putting this one in my IKEA cabinet from here, as it doesn't necessarily need to be in the like humidity box anymore. My IKEA cabinet tends to be relatively high humidity as it is, so I'm not too worried about it being an issue. I just have to make space. That's the hard part. I'm not entirely sure where this Scindapsus luciens stands. It has just been in moss this whole time. I think I put it in moss quite early on, so I've just pulled it out. And it does have like one tiny little root. Look at that. It's got a tiny little root. So it's working. It's just going quite slowly, but I'm going to continue leaving it in moss. I think that is a good place for it. The moss has stayed like really damp. It's just wet with distilled water. So it is a very happy little thing. Hopefully gonna get it to regrow some roots very soon. This one I probably will leave in this box as it's definitely not ready to go into any sort of like real world situation. Not that like the cabinet or my home is a real world situation, but it's just not even close, so I'm not even gonna bother taking it out quite yet because I'm sure it's absolutely loving the humidity of this box. I'm not too sure how well this Florida Ghost is doing. It did lose its like two best, brightest leaves. That being said, I think this one is a new leaf, so it's definitely not a goner. It's just not doing its best, I don't think. There are a bunch of like little caterpillars in here that are rotty, so I'm just gonna take those off because that's pretty gross. I am though gonna take it out of this. Let me get a potting mat because I'm gonna take it out of the perlite to see how well it's doing. So for the most part, the roots look pretty nice. I was a bit worried that they were gonna be going a bit rotty, but it doesn't seem like that's the case at all, except for this one that I just pulled off. But for the most part, they're quite plump, and even though they're like brown, they're like proper roots. I'm not worried that they're gonna rot. And there is a little bit of new root growth in there as well, so I think overall they should be fine. It's just a matter of it being saved. I don't know, I am a little bit nervous about it because it lost quite a few leaves. I don't know if that's just because they were gonna go anyway or what, but it's just not ideal. I will be sure to put a little bit more distilled water in the bottom of this so the perlite stays moist. I don't want to put too much because I don't want the roots to be fully submerged. Though I don't know if that would be that bad, seeing as they're kind of waterish roots anyways now. So I'll probably only fill it to about there with the distilled water, as it won't be coming off of it too much in the prop box. The other one that I put into perlite was the Syngonium Grey Ghost, and I see some absolutely gorgeous new root growth in there. Those brown ones, I'm a little bit worried that they're a bit rotty, so I'm going to take it out and have a proper look. Okay, yeah, as I suspected, the brown ones are a bit rotty. They just kind of pull away, which is unfortunate. So that's not ideal, but at the same time, it does have a lot of really good new root growth, like all in here. So I'm not worried about it. It's just, I need to remove these dead roots while I can. This one is probably the plant that's done the best out of all of them, to be honest, which I don't know if I'm surprised about. I thought because it was a Syngonium, it might be a little bit more fragile. Maybe that's just because like the leaves on these are a little bit more fragile, but it's been like super hardy and I've like not had to worry about it. I've been able to like kind of see it through the box a little bit and like not had a single worry about it because the leaves looked so freaking good, and it's getting some new growth in there, which is amazing, but it just looks super duper healthy. And the roots are, for the most part, like super strong. I did take like a good handful off, but that's completely manageable. When it's got this much like new root growth, I'm like 100% not worried about this one. But I'm just going to put it back in the perlite, as it is really liking that. I'll probably transfer it to pon fairly soon. I'll probably give it another week or two in perlite and then put it into pon and probably into the IKEA cabinet. And I'll also put a little bit of distilled water in this one as well. The one that I was the most worried about was the Alocasia Dragon Scale. And oh my goodness, I'm pleasantly freaking surprised about it. I'm surprised it's still with us, to be honest. So I allowed that to callus over for I think 2 days. Once it was calloused over, I put it back into some distilled water and back into the humidity box situation, and it was completely fine. I am a little bit worried that this leaf is going to go because it's gone a bit yellow. The other one seems perfectly fine, and it looks like it has new growth, which I'm super excited about. I'm really looking forward to seeing that new leaf come in and hopefully it living through that, because I feel like once that new leaf has gone in, I feel like it's acclimated at that point. So I am going to continue keeping this in water. I'm going to change this water out because it's gone a bit yellow, but I'll keep it in some distilled water in a cup in the acclimation box of humidity until probably this leaf like grows in. I don't want to like give it the stress of putting it in pon, which is what I'm eventually going to put it in, like while a new leaf is coming in. I want it to like properly get its bearings first. Also, this like root system, I don't think it's quite big enough yet to support this whole thing in a substrate and the shock of that. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I put it in pon. But I'm super, super excited about this one. I'm just hoping it continues on and keeps growing because I do freaking love these leaves. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and I really want like a big massive plant of this so badly. So I'm really, really hoping that it does okay. So I think I'm going to end this acclimation video here. These plants have been acclimating for a month now, and I think for the most part they're doing really, really well. From here I'm gonna put all of them actually back into this humidity box to continue like transitioning humidity wise, but instead of leaving the lid on all the way, I'm gonna put it slightly catty corner to let a little bit more of the ambient humidity in my house sort of like blend with the humidity that's in the box. As you can see, it's like quite moist here. So just to slowly get them more used to the humidity that is in my house, and hopefully they can live outside of this box soon, or in the IKEA cabinet, which also has really high humidity. So I'm just gonna do that. Any future updates on these plants will probably come via Instagram or in a sort of monthly update video that I do here on this channel. So if you're curious to see them, check out those things. Also, if you ever just want to see how they're doing, shoot me a message over on Instagram and I'll probably send you some pictures, because I love talking about my plants, and if you ask to see them, I will definitely show you. So yeah, I will keep you updated there. So far, I'm actually really proud of these plants. I was worried that they would not survive, seeing as they were in the post for 3 weeks, and a lot of them came with really dry roots, but I think at this point I'm gonna be able to save all of them, which is super duper exciting, and I'm really proud of myself and them for it. So yeah, I think that is that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. Let me know if you enjoyed this sort of acclimation video as well, because I can keep making things like this, like going forward. And yeah, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!